I taught myself to cook. Over 20 years of obsessively experimenting in the kitchen and questioning everything to create my magical restaurant dishes. Now I'm going to share my secrets with you so you can cook like me at home. It looks brilliant, doesn't it? Each week we'll look at one key ingredient, like cheese, beef or chocolate. This week, it's eggs. I really believe that by getting to grips with your ingredients, you'll gain the confidence to be more creative with your cooking. I like that. I'm going to go back to basics, challenge traditional techniques, and compile a compendium of tips to transform how you cook at home. I'm taking 5 from that one. So come and share my innermost secrets. The simple egg, look at it. It's one of nature's miracles, but it's so familiar, we take it for granted. See, these little things, it's quite amazing. They've just been pushed out of a chicken's backside, but they're one of the most important and versatile ingredients in the kitchen. This week, I'm going to be challenging the way we cook eggs, from basics like boiling and poaching to unscrambling egg myths with some home cooks from my village. Where's your pan from?
I don't think you really want to know, do you?
When we've mastered the simple stuff, you'll become fearless with mayonnaise. You'll easily make the lemon tart of your dreams. I think that's beautiful. And some bonkers magic to recreate at home. A cauldron of bacon and egg ice cream. Oh, and you'll need a syringe, a thermometer, some dry ice, and a handful of spare change. After all that, you'll never cook or look at an egg the same way again. For me, one of life's great pleasures is a perfectly boiled egg. Traditional way of cooking eggs is that you boil them for 3 minutes. Boiling an egg is pretty aggressive. The secret to a great boiled egg is, in fact, don't boil it. Problem with boiling an egg is if the yolk is right, the whites can be rubbery, and if the white's right, the yolks can be undercooked. Low and slow is the best. So, for the perfect boiled egg, put a medium egg in a small pan of cold water. Place it on the highest heat, and the moment the water starts boiling, you take it off the heat and then leave it for 6 minutes. Just leave it in the hot water with the lid on. You've got to think about residual heat. There's a lot of cooking that happens away from the heat source. If you take a look at the egg through the lens of a thermal imaging camera, you can see exactly what's happening. The water's still 90 degrees. It's hot enough to cook it gently, but without the shock of boiling. This way, the temperature will be more gentle. You'll avoid the rubbery egg white, but you'll still get a beautifully rich, warm, runny yolk. I think someone wants his egg back. A perfect boiled egg. Beautifully soft, delicate white. And then hidden underneath is just this completely runny, rich yolk. I've replaced soldiers with some asparagus. Beautiful. One of life's great pleasures. I'm off to the village hall to see how some local ladies do another basic, scrambled eggs. I've spent years questioning the way we cook and working out how to get the best results. So I'm keen to see how traditional cooking compares to my tried and tested approach. Hello.
Hello, I'm Carol Spanton, WI President for Hollywood.
Lovely to meet you. How
Very
are you?
nice of you to come.
Oh, pleasure. Very excited. I'm slightly scared.
Yeah. We've got something to make you feel at home. Pink apron. We thought very fetching.
I'm in touch with my feminine side.
Good. Glad to hear it.
Scrambled eggs can go incredibly wrong. For me, it's all about the texture. First up, Pauline. Now, she swears by adding butter and milk to the eggs, whisking hard, and then stirring on a high heat in a non-stick frying pan. And is this your special scrambled egg pan?
It is.
Roz uses the same ingredients, but she chucks them straight in a saucepan and stirs slowly. Where's your pan from?
I don't think you really want to know, do you?
It wasn't under the bed, was it?
No, well... Just don't look at the little bits at the bottom, OK?
Yes.
Now, Pat has cut the butter out, and she's not using a pan at all. Where's your hob?
I don't need one because I'm using a microwave.
Aha! How long are you going to cook that for?
I don't know.
So, what do these three versions taste like? First, Pauline's buttery non-stick pan method.
Yeah, very nice texture.
Second, Pat's microwave method. No, I'm joking.
A little bit drier for me.
And finally, Roz's chamber pot method.
Get stuck in. Creamy and buttery. That's nice.
It's your turn now.
I've just got to go to the post office.
Going nowhere.
All theirs tasted okay, but none had the silky smoothness you can get from scrambled eggs. I'm going to try and convince them to switch over to my foolproof technique.
Are you nervous?
I am as calm as anything.
Now for the science. The ideal ingredients are butter and cream to make it silky smooth.
Eggs, milk, and just a touch of cream.
Beat the eggs, and then, to keep them away from direct heat, I'm using a bowl set over a pan of hot water.
Now I'm going to cook them in a bain-marie.
Why are you using a bain-marie?
So the key thing to this is just low and slow. This is about 15 minutes. You just cook it for longer.
Finally, I drizzle the egg with some browned butter, which adds a real nuttiness and a drop of sherry vinegar.
It just cuts some of the richness.
It's good, doesn't it? Yeah.
So dig in.
Get some spoon.
Verdict?
Yeah, it's absolutely fantastic.
Yes.
It really is.
Yes.
Absolutely
Very
fantastic.
Very moist. Isn't it lovely? I think I'll just have another bit.
Ah, survived.
I think I might have just convinced them, but I've got a really magical egg recipe coming up for them later. Now for another one of my favourites. I love poached eggs, but only when they're cooked perfectly. But there's loads of strange myths about how to do them.
One technique is creating a whirlpool where you put a spoon or something into the water, spin it around really quickly, and then slide the egg in. And that helps to keep the white wrapped around the yolk. Another technique is to add some vinegar to the water. But what that does is it makes the egg white tough and dry. And sometimes, if there's too much vinegar, it actually tastes acidic. And you can't make a great poached egg without using a fresh egg.
If you don't get your egg direct from a chicken, how can you tell how fresh it really is?
If I pop in a fresh egg, it sinks. And this egg is just over 3 weeks old. You see the difference? The old egg is floating. The reason this egg floats is because of a little air pocket. And as the egg gets older, the inside of it starts to shrink as the moisture dries out. And as it shrinks, this air pocket gets bigger. As the air pocket gets bigger, just like a helium balloon, the egg starts to float.
And here's why the age of an egg is important for poaching.
Here is a 3-week-old egg.
As eggs get older, the whites become watery, and that's what causes the stringy bits when you try to poach them.
But the white is okay for things like soufflés and meringues, and if you're going to scramble it, well, that's okay.
In a fresh egg, the white is firmer.
And this is going to make a massive difference to your poached egg because it's going to stay intact. Also, great for fried eggs.
So you've got a fresh egg. How do you poach it to perfection?
This technique will produce the perfect poached egg every single time, and it's really quite simple.
First, get it away from direct heat.
Just take a plate, upturned, and just drop it into the pan of water. The plate will protect the egg white from the direct heat of the pan.
Second, I've worked out the right temperature.
The most important piece of kit for this recipe is a thermometer.
These take the guesswork out of cooking, and you can get them from the supermarket. 80 degrees is what you want. And third, even a fresh egg has a little bit of watery white, so you've got to drain it off.
That's the stuff that's going to go all spindly and basically mess up the poached egg. So what I'm left with is a nice, clean egg white.
I've also worked out how long to cook it.
Start the timer, 4 minutes. Now this is ready. Just got a simple toasted muffin. And then all that needs is a bit of cracked black pepper and a few grains of salt. If something's that good, it really doesn't need anything else. It's just one of the great egg dishes when done well.
eggs have an amazing magical quality. The yolks contain a substance called lecithin, which holds those arch enemies, oil and water, together. And that's the secret behind mayonnaise.
So I'm going to show you how to make mayonnaise.
Just take 1 room temperature egg,
Just need the yolk.
add a dollop of mustard, then at first add the oil very, very slowly while whisking. The egg yolk's 50% water, but the magic ingredient, the lecithin, binds the water in the egg to the oil.
People say you have to drip the oil literally 1 drip at a time, but it's not necessary. Just add very gently, very slowly, just dripping in. And as it starts to emulsify, you'll notice the mixture's going to thicken. And then you can start increasing the amount of oil you add. More. Looking good. To finish it off, just a few drops of vinegar and some salt. So this ratio of egg yolk to oil is quite a common standard mayonnaise recipe. 150 ml of oil and 1 egg. Now, I think we should start adding some more oil. But a lot of people don't like to make mayonnaise because they think if they add too much oil, it's just going to split. Now, that's not true.
So me and my development chefs are going to do a simple test to see just how much oil you can add to 1 little egg yolk before it splits. At a massive 1.5 litres, it's just starting to split. That's 7 times what the recipe books say. So our experiment shows, don't be scared of mayo, give it a go and trust the power of the egg.
It's also shown you can make an awful lot of mess with more oil, a bucket, a power tool and 1 Otto.
Now we know the basic egg techniques, let's step up a gear. Here's a puzzle for you. How do you keep a yolk runny when it's been boiled, fried and baked in a Scotch egg? Impossible? No, it's easy.
I remember when I was a kid, one of the things I got really excited about on a picnic was a Scotch egg. When I look back at it, I think, God, it's a hard-boiled egg, sometimes a little bit green, with this sausage casing, and then coated in this really bizarre orange kind of pasty powder stuff. I don't even know what it was. So for me, I wanted to rise to the challenge of reinventing the Scotch egg. So the challenge is how to keep the yolk runny at the end of the cooking process.
First trick, only half boil the eggs. So leave them in that pan off the heat for just 3 minutes instead of 6. Next, some kitchen magic, the ice trick. Dunk the eggs in iced water to stop them cooking. Now you need to peel them with a spoon.
The shells should now come off nice and easily. Somebody said to me, never work with children, small animals and hard-boiled eggshells.
Oh well, here's a couple that did peel properly.
The next stage, I need to make the sausage casing. So for that, I need some sausages. Just unwrap the casings and just pop them in the mixer.
With paprika, cornstarch and hot dog mustard.
And I've got a highly technical, scientifically advanced reason for adding this. I love it.
A splash of water. Now, somehow, all that lot's got to stick together in a paste. And for that, I've got a very surprising glue, a bit of kitchen magic, salt.
The salt will mix with the meat and draw out some proteins from it, which will act as like a glue and help it bind. That's great technique. If you're making a burger, for example, you don't need to add breadcrumbs, you don't need to add egg yolks. Just add enough salt.
Next hurdle, how are you going to get that sticky meat around your egg? Here's a nifty tool. Cling film.
Just gather the cling film around the egg.
Then unwrap and dip first into flour, then beat an egg and breadcrumbs. Okay, ready to go. Hold your breath and chuck it in really hot oil, 190 degrees.
The idea with this is to get the coating brown and crisp as soon as possible, because we're going to finish the cooking off in the oven. These should take a couple of minutes.
Not long enough for the heat to reach the egg yolk.
Ow. That's basically not how you put a thermometer in a pan. At the moment, the egg white's not quite cooked. The sausage meat is not cooked, but we've got the wonderful gold crust.
So bake for just 10 minutes at 190 degrees. So those eggs have been boiled, fried and baked. Will that soft yolk have survived? Perfect.
The yolk is so creamy. That is one sexy Scotch egg.
In part 2, we'll move on to some real magic you can do at home. How spare cash can help with your lemon tart, and a conjuring trick with my bacon and egg ice cream.
Looks brilliant, doesn't it?
Each week I'm going to take one ingredient and tell you all my secrets, from the basic techniques to my most magical recipes. This week, one of the most important ingredients in the kitchen, eggs. We mastered boiling, poaching and scrambling. Now for some real magic. But before I surprise some local ladies from my village brae with my bacon and egg ice cream, I'm going to reveal a simple trick to give you the perfect custard tart every time. Me and my chefs must have spent years wobbling tarts.
It was the traditional way of telling when your liquid egg-based filling for a tart was perfectly cooked. But it's so vague.
Then I discovered a fail-safe thermometer trick that made the wobble test a thing of the past.
And by using that thermometer, every time you cook this, taste it or serve it up to any friends of yours, you are going to be amazed, because the result is absolutely incredible. So how many chefs does it take to wobble a tart?
Well, 3 so far today.
It depends on how big the tart is, I suppose.
It definitely does.
Laugh and laugh.
So, introducing the simple, scientifically researched, fail-safe lemon custard tart.
So first off, the pastry.
For that, I need some spare change. Roll out the pastry to the thickness of 2 tuppences and line the case.
So what we need to do with this is blind bake it. Blind baking is a classical technique where you basically cook the pastry first.
So prick it with a fork and scrunch up some parchment paper about half a dozen times.
And what you end up with is much softer, it's much less sharp bits in it, basically, to damage the pastry.
You'd usually use baking beans to stop the base rising.
I'm going to use coins.
They conduct the heat better. Bake the pastry at 190 degrees for 20 minutes.
If you have a look at the thermal imaging camera, you can see just how well those coins are conducting the heat.
If you want the details of this and my other recipes, go to channel4.com/Heston.
Now I'm going to make the lemon filling.
OK, peel and juice 5 lemons, add 9 whole eggs and 1 yolk, 390 grams of white sugar and 300 grams of double cream.
Put this over a pan of water.
Before it goes in the tart, you need to warm the custard. Then strain it to remove the lemon zest.
So obviously this filling is very runny. So rather than taking the pastry case out, filling it, and then trying to get it back into the oven, getting it everywhere, it's much safer to fill it while it's in the oven.
That oven needs to be at 120 degrees.
OK, we're in.
Now for my special custard tart trick.
So that filling needs to come to 70 degrees centigrade, measured with this.
It works like magic every time. There's no need to wobble. When that filling hits 70, you know it will cool and set perfectly. A little bit of lemon heaven.
That is beautiful.
Next, I'm going to show you how to bring real theatre and magic into your own kitchen. My bacon and egg ice cream.
And one of the most important ingredients in traditional ice creams are eggs. But this is an egg ice cream with a difference. It's going to really taste of eggs. Now, the problem with making ice cream at home is that domestic ice cream machines take too long to freeze the mixture. In my opinion, it's better to go to the supermarket and buy a good tub of ice cream than try and make one at home with a domestic ice cream machine. Unless you've got this little box of magic here. It is dry ice.
Dry ice is frozen carbon dioxide. It's cheap and you can order it online.
Just pour some warm water on it. You'll see how cold it is. Looks brilliant, doesn't it? Proper cauldron. It is cold, so you do have to be careful about using this. It's -80. Just don't pick it up with your hands. So Why on earth am I using this to make ice cream? It's quite simple. By adding this to your custard, you have ice cream in less than a minute. Plus, it just looks fantastic. What I did was take some bacon, grill it, and then add it to the milk and leave it to infuse overnight. And that way the bacon will flavour the milk.
So heat 1 kilo of bacon-infused milk, add 30 grams of skim milk powder to make it richer. In a separate container, combine 24 large egg yolks with 120 grams of caster sugar and blitz. Then add that to the hot milk and cook on a low heat, of course, until it reaches 85 degrees.
We are intentionally lightly scrambling the custard. It's kind of like a scrambled egg custard.
This makes it taste more eggy.
That's reached temperature.
Then stop it cooking. Strain it into a bowl that's sitting in ordinary ice.
If you have a look as it's coming out of the pan, it's just started to scramble. Exactly what we're looking for. At this stage, I can now take this, chuck in some dry ice, stir it, wait for the vapours to die down, give it a minute, and I'll have some ice cream. For me, that's not enough. I want to give it more theatre, and I'm using dry ice. It needs theatre and surprise.
So I've blown some eggs out and I've sterilised the shells in boiling water. And I'm going to hide the custard in those empty eggshells. I've invited the Women's Institute ladies round to sample my magical dessert. I've got a bit of a reputation round Bray for strange food, and I don't want to disappoint them, although they might be underwhelmed when they think I'm only serving them boiled eggs.
Take a seat.
Thank you.
Looks like breakfast.
You can't fool this lot for long.
Something's been put inside it.
You're not going to tell me, are you?
If I could have your eggs, please.
This is where I get to do my conjuring trick.
Just going to make some scrambled eggs for you. I need something to scramble the eggs.
Oh my God.
So this is dry ice.
It looks like a witch's cauldron, doesn't it?
It's starting to look like scrambled egg.
Yes.
Basically, it is bacon and egg ice cream.
Taste the bacon.
Oh, that's absolutely fabulous.
Really smooth, isn't it?
It's lovely, it really is.
So how has the heady mixture of eggs, bacon, theatre and science gone down with the ladies of Bray?
The best thing that's come out of a witch's cauldron I've ever tasted, anyway.
Better than puppy dog tails. What is it?
Slugs and snails,
Slugs and
yeah.
snails, yeah. That's next, actually.
Yeah. Oh.
Next week, seductive chocolate. I'll melt it, flock it, shock it, make a trick dessert.
Absolutely brilliant.
And magic a simple truffle into a cake that explodes in your mouth.
Sublime. It's pure delight.
9 o'clock, you're pregnant, you're about to pop. Surely high heels is last on the list. Well, maybe not. A very fashionable one born every minute. Baker Brothers next. And tonight they like it fast and furious. Ooh, misses.